Tonight is Iraq policy at a tipping point. With pressure building on the Bush administration to change course, the White House says no. America, the hot zone. Wildfires burning out of control in the West while the East Coast struggles with power problems under a blistering sun. A woman who lost her husband in Iraq and the translator who helped him. Now the bond that brings them together. And one of the world's great natural wonders that scientists say is being attacked by climate change.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. On this first Monday after the July 4th break, there are signs and signals and indications that a turning point may be nearing on U.S. involvement in the Iraq War. As you'll hear in a moment, the Bush White House is denying anything's been accelerated. But the problem is the very people they used to be able to count on, the Republicans in the Senate who have been steadfast, dependable supporters of the war effort. One by one, they have been beginning to defect from the president with the lowest ever recorded approval rating. And where does all of this leave the American men and women who have volunteered to serve their nation? We begin our coverage on this Monday night with our chief White House correspondent, David Gregory. David, good evening.
Brian, inside the White House tonight, a greater sense of urgency about what comes next in Iraq. High-level strategy sessions and meetings with Republican lawmakers whose criticism of the president's war policy has accelerated a push to withdraw troops. Is this the tipping point on Iraq? Tonight, another Republican senator, Olympia Snowe of Maine, called on the president to set a timetable for troop withdrawal, saying the surge is not working.
The president needs to understand that American people's patience is worn out, and the time has come.
This week, the administration is preparing an interim assessment of the surge strategy. But the White House insisted today it's too early for final judgments.
I'm not sure everybody's going to get an A on the first report, but it is also pretty clear that it is going to be essential to have political progress in Iraq.
But that progress from the Iraqi government has not come.
Every Iraqi politician is more interested in his own agenda, that of his ethnic group, his sectarian group, and of his own personal agenda than they are in the interests of Iraq as a whole.
Frustration with the government of Nouri al-Maliki, the inability of Sunni, Shia, and Kurd politicians to agree on key issues like how to distribute oil wealth is the basis of Republican dissent.
We're not only not making progress, but we're going backwards by every measurement in Iraq.
Just this weekend, more than 100 people were killed by a truck bomb in northern Iraq. With Congress returning this week, Senate Democrats are preparing a series of votes on troop rotation, withdrawal, and funding.
And this deck of cards is coming crashing down, and it's landing heavily on the heads of the soldiers and the Marines who have been deployed again and again while the rest of the country sits back and debates Iraq as an intellectual or emotional exercise.
But tonight, White House allies argued they will resist a new push to end the war.
It's certainly my goal to prevent an undercutting of this effort right when we are sending the troops there to do their mission. They're in harm's way.
And tonight, White House officials deny that the president is getting ready to announce any kind of troop withdrawal strategy. These officials stress the president has already said that that is his goal, to withdraw troops when and only when there is enough security on the ground in Iraq to do that. Brian?
Thanks, David. David Gregory starting us off at the White House tonight. And on this very same day, we learned the U.S. Army missed its recruiting goal for the month of June. It's usually a crucial month for recruiters because of high school graduations. Our Pentagon correspondent, Jim Miklaszewski, is with us from the Pentagon tonight. Jim, walk us through the numbers, if you would.
Brian, this is really bad news for the Army, which has now missed its recruiting goal for the second month in a row. And figures to be released tomorrow show that the Army fell short by some 1,300 recruits. Now, that is, in fact, fallen short of the 8,400 target by 16%. And that follows in May a drop of some 400 recruits. To make up for it all, the Army's actually accepting recruits who normally wouldn't make the cut. 10% of the June recruits recruits had to get special waivers either because they had felony convictions or because they had physical problems such as obesity. Many in the Army blame the shortfall on what they call the mommy factor. That is, parents who do everything they can to convince their sons and daughters not to join the Army for fear they'll go off to war. Brian.
All right, the numbers tonight from Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon. Thanks. And with us tonight from Delaware for more on all of this, our military analyst, retired 4-star U.S. Army General Barry McCaffrey. General, first things first, how troubled are you by these recruitment figures?
Well, I think it's very serious, Brian. It's not just the numbers, it's also the quality of the recruits. You know, by the end of the year, we may have 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 soldiers in uniform who are non-high school graduates, moral turpitude problems, physical problems. We slashed the attrition rate in basic training. The Army's under stress and they're trying to sustain it. We're also bringing back on, for second involuntary combat tours, a bunch of National Guard troops. So I think the bottom line is the Army cannot sustain the current national security policy.
And General, all this talk about a tilt against the war in Iraq, where does this, to ask the question we asked at the top of the broadcast, where does this leave the fighting men and women, so many of them we've met on our various trips over there, and is there any kind of turn in the debate or a benchmark you yourself are waiting for?
Well, I think it's a very serious morale problem for the armed forces at the end of the day. You know, on a daily basis, they're worried about survival, their buddies accomplishing the mission. But they've had 30,000 killed and wounded, so their heart and treasure and friends are in this conflict. I would assess that the Congress will not constrain the president and refuse to fund the war. But I think once we see a sustainable veto on the part of the Senate, once they get 60 votes reliably against the war, at that point, the bottom will drop out of domestic support.
Our military analyst, heavily decorated combat veteran, retired 4-star General Barry McCaffrey, with us tonight from Delaware. General, as always, our thanks. And now to the ongoing fight between the White House and Congress over the firing of several U.S. attorneys around the country. The White House message to Congress today was essentially, we'll see you in court. White House counsel Fred Fielding invoked executive privilege, refusing to allow the testimony of 2 former aides or to provide documents requested by congressional investigators. The White House called the requests an unreasonable incursion into presidential prerogatives. Judiciary Chairman Senator Pat Leahy called the White House move stonewalling. Now to hot weather across this country here in July, weather that is fueling wildfires all over parts of the western U.S. tonight. Severe drought conditions in many places, near record temperatures, have proved to be a combustible combination. NBC's John Larson begins his report in Utah tonight, where there's a lot of scorched earth.
We just kept going until the smoke just overtook us, and we just watched ourselves go into blacker and blacker smoke.
What was supposed to be a vacation for the Hall family turned terrifying as thousands this weekend fled the Utah fire zone.
And it jumped the west side into the median where there were a lot of big trees, and those went up. And at that point, the flames might have moved 100 yards in a matter of seconds. And it just, big wall of flame, and everybody panicked.
At 450 square miles, the Milford fire is now the largest in Utah's history. A trooper camera caught the smoke along Interstate 15, blamed for the death of a California couple hit from behind by a driver who couldn't see them. Serious fires burn in 12 states tonight, from the Canadian to the Mexican border. Although the fire danger remains extreme and is expected to get worse, several major efforts got some unexpected help today. In Washington state, calm winds allowed hundreds to return to their homes near Wenatchee. In South Dakota, rain last night in the Black Hills suppressed a fire that claimed 1 life and 27 homes. In California, cooler temperatures allowed firefighters to contain more than half of the state's largest fire and reopen a major highway in the Sierra. But no one thinks that a corner has been turned, as fire burns largely unchecked across the West. John Larson, NBC News, Winnemucca, Nevada.
And here in the east, it's the heat and the humidity causing misery and straining the power grid as millions of Americans try to keep cool. Jennifer London is in one of the hot spots today, Philadelphia, where, Jennifer, I understand they fell short of a record.
They did, Brian, but 3 words to describe how it feels outside. Very hot. Hot. And today, temperatures in cities across the country reached dangerous levels. Portland, Oregon, and Philadelphia both under excessive heat warnings. In the city of brotherly love today, no love from Mother Nature. A potentially dangerous combination of soaring temperatures and high humidity put Philadelphia on alert.
Temperatures will be climbing into the upper 90s today.
Much of the nation today baking under an unseasonably hot sun. From 109 in Las Vegas to 97 in Salt Lake City to a hot and humid 100 in Baltimore.
That's the reason why I'm out here, because it's the hottest day of the year, and I need to stay cool.
New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg called on people to conserve, with the largest blackout in the city's history 4 years ago still fresh on residents' minds.
Nobody wants to have a blackout, and we all know that the chances are we will set another record in terms of energy usage.
In Philadelphia, demand for power today is already 25% greater than just yesterday.
Our operators can monitor the flow of power.
But Michael Wood with Philadelphia's public utility company says he's optimistic the lights will stay on.
We did not anticipate any problems today, and there are no emergency advisories for the public.
Still, with demand for energy increasing across the country, experts say the nation's power grid is being taxed like never before.
We have to build our system out to meet peak demands, and so consequently, a lot of the time, all of our system may not be operating fully loaded because of the weather or demand situation.
As the mercury continued to rise, some found creative ways to cool off. Like this floating pool in New York, one of the many ways Americans are trying to beat the heat on this unseasonably hot summer day. Little relief in sight for tomorrow in the Northeast. More blistering temperatures and high humidity out west. Washington State is bracing for temperatures that could reach well into the 90s later in the week, Brian. The mercury could push past 100.
Jennifer London in Philadelphia tonight. Jennifer, thanks for that. When Nightly News continues here this Monday night, NBC News In Depth. Her husband was killed in Iraq, but tonight she has found a new bond under extraordinary circumstances. And later we will show you what the experts say climate change is doing to one of the world's most beautiful and delicate ecosystems.
I'm Dottie Major, and this is my story. I love to dance, any kind. Just put some music on, and there goes Dottie. I realized I had this Mr. Arthritis about a year ago. I began to get this gnawing, sewing pain in my wrist. A leave makes the difference for me, so I can just keep on dancing. I move, I groove. I'm gonna dance, baby, until I can't dance no more. And I'm gonna be taking a leave as long as I dance.
It's a big world, and it's my job to shrink it. I'm a model maker. We shrink buildings, we shrink landscapes. I make it really small. So when my doctor said that my going and going was because of an enlarging prostate, I said, how can we bring it down to size? He said, Avodart. He said, Avodart's different because over time, it actually shrinks the prostate and improves urinary symptoms over the long term. Other medicines don't treat the cause because they don't shrink the prostate.
Avodart is for men only. Women should not take or handle Avodart due to risk of a specific birth defect. Tell your doctor if you have liver disease. Rarely sexual side effects, swelling, or tenderness of the breasts can occur. Only your doctor can determine if your symptoms are from an enlarged prostate and not prostate cancer. So have regular prostate exams. Ask your doctor about Avodart today. It's your growing problem. It's our job to shrink it. Avodart.
This is my mother, and this is my grandmother. Both my mom and my grandmother would experience bloating, irregularity. When I started having problems, I asked my mom about it, and she told me about Activia. I tried it, and I'm hooked.
Ooh, yum, yum. Dannon Activia with the natural culture Bifidus regularis is clinically proven to help regulate your digestive system in 2 weeks.
This is when I get sad, because it's gone.
Help naturally regulate your digestive system.
Top Republicans speak out against the president's war plan. But when the time comes to vote on troop withdrawals, where will they stand? Countdown with Keith Olbermann, MSNBC tonight.
We are back with NBC News In Depth, and tonight it's about two women with a special bond forged in the face of the war in Iraq and by challenges here in the U.S. Now they have overcome death in one country for a new life in the other. NBC's Jana Raff has their story tonight in depth.
Lisa Ramachi hadn't expected to share her New York City apartment again.
I want her to feel welcome.
Particularly with the last woman to see her husband alive. Stephen Vincent went to southern Iraq as a freelance journalist. With interpreter Noor Al-Khal as his guide, he wrote about death squads infiltrating the Basra police. Noor began receiving threats for helping him.
By putting her on the map, he had jeopardized her life.
So Lisa and Stephen came up with an unusual plan to get Noor to safety. They decided Stephen would convert to Islam and temporarily marry her to get her out of the country. But just days before they were to go,
men in police uniforms, in a police truck, snatched him off the street and killed him.
Noor refused to leave him and was wounded.
She was willing to sacrifice her life for my husband's.
Lisa has fought American bureaucracy for 18 months to bring Noor here, including testifying to U.S. Congress.
And please, let me help the woman who helped Stephen, and in so doing, greatly aided me. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Finally, Noor has arrived.
I'm so sorry, I come back without Stephen.
The first non-military Iraqi interpreter given special refugee status.
It's all right, Noor, you're safe now.
Noor asked to go straight to the cemetery where Stephen is buried.
I got her here for you. I'm so sorry.
I do apologize for what my people did to you.
She promises she'll translate his book, The Red Zone, into Arabic and help with the foundation Lisa has started in his name.
I come here all the time.
And then Lisa takes Noor to her new street.
This is where you're going to be living.
And her new home.
It's like a bus.
And she says for the first time in 2 years, she feels safe. Jana Raff, NBC News, New York.
More news when NBC Nightly News continues in just a moment, including an American manufacturer flying high after the rollout of a revolutionary new aircraft.
Let's fly away.
I've judged just about everything you can grow. I've also become a pretty good judge of what I should eat. See, my doctor told me my cholesterol was higher than we'd like. I watched my diet, but that's not enough. He told me about statins, which are a good option. For me, he chose Zetia. Zetia helps lower my cholesterol differently. Statins work mainly with the liver, not Zetia. It works on the digestive tract, like some other medicines. But Zetia is unique in the way it helps block the absorption of cholesterol that comes from food. Zetia, along with a healthy diet, help lower bad cholesterol by an average of 30 points. That's 18%. It complements my diet and exercise program.
Zetia may not be right for people who have ever had liver problems, are nursing or pregnant, or may become pregnant. Your doctor will decide if Zetia is right for you. Unexplained muscle pain or weakness could be a sign of a rare but serious side effect and should be reported to a doctor right away. Common side effects included tiredness and stomach pain.
Should you take Zetia? Ask your doctor if Zetia is right for you. Zetia, it's a different way to help fight cholesterol.
In the future, everyone will protect their eyes from sun damage like they protect their skin. Transitions lenses. They automatically adjust to changing light and block harmful UV rays and glare. So don't wait until tomorrow. The danger is here today, and so is the protection. Ask your eye care professional about transitions. Insist that your lenses come with a transition certificate of authenticity.
I was getting up every night to go to the bathroom. Up, back to sleep, up again.
4 or 5 times a night.
All day, too, and sometimes I had trouble going.
I kept saying, go see the doctor about your urinary problems.
I finally did. He said I had BPH. It wasn't prostate cancer. It's just another name for an enlarged prostate. And good news, once-a-day prescription medicines can help.
Really help.
So guys, see your doctor. Call this number. Don't wait another day.
Or another night.
Oscar loves going to the dog park. There are always new dogs to meet, new smells to sniff, new things to dig in. But I worry about some of the things he gets into.
Now, there's Iams Healthy Naturals, with no added fillers, artificial colors, or preservatives. It's complete nutrition with antioxidant-rich fruits and vegetables and beta-carotene to help protect your dog's immune system so he can explore the world. New Iams Healthy Naturals from vet-recommended Iams.
Something new is about to appear in the skies over this nation and around the world. It's an aircraft that Boeing calls the Dreamliner that could also describe advance orders for the new 787. In many ways, it is the next generation jet. It's also a big victory over a big European rival. Our report tonight from NBC's Tom Costello.
At a production hangar outside of Seattle, a grand entrance for a plane designed to turn Boeing around.
Probably the biggest thing I've ever been a part of. I love it. It's a great accomplishment.
In fact, never before have there been so many orders for a new plane, even before its first test flight. Already nearly 700 from 47 airlines.
Oh, there's no doubt the 787 Dreamliner is best in class.
What has the industry buzzing is the 787's radical redesign that experts predict will forever change passenger air travel. The key to that redesign is the skin of the 787. It's not aluminum, but rather a new super strong composite material. Essentially, new layers of reinforced lightweight plastic, each layer paper thin. A lighter, more fuel-efficient plane able to fly just as fast and far as a 747. For passengers, more headroom, bigger windows, and lower cabin pressure to ease the effects of long-distance travel. With $20 billion in foreign sales, Boeing is America's biggest exporter. Yet just a few years ago, thought to be in big trouble with arch-rival Airbus stealing customers and building its double-decker A380. But Airbus has stumbled badly, now years away from breaking even on its big gamble.
Boeing is opening up a big lead there, and Airbus has a long ways to go to catch up.
And Boeing is hiring again, 10,000 new hires in the last 18 months.
We knew this was going to be good, but it has redefined good.
Now, with the 787 sold out through 2015, Boeing employees say they're back. Tom Costello, NBC News, Everett, Washington.
When we come back, a natural wonder at risk down under.
Hey, boss, do we have Aflac?
Nah, we have something else.
But if you're hurt and miss work, does it pay cash like Aflac does?
Nah.
Or let you spend it any way you want, like for gas and groceries?
Nah.
Or help with everyday bills like Aflac does?
Nah.
There's only one Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Nice try, boss.
Nah.
You're a winner. Would you like to be a Publishers Clearinghouse winner tomorrow?
No way.
You can if you go to PCH.com right now.
Oh.
Enter today, win tomorrow.
It finally paid off.
Our next $10 million winner could be you.
Announcing the Mercury Summer Drive sales event. Drive off with the best savings of the year on our best lineup ever, including the new 34 MPG City Mariner Hybrid, the 29 MPG Highway Mercury Montego, and even the 31 MPG Highway Milan, the highest-ranked midsize car in initial quality according to J.D. Power & Associates. Lease the award-honored Mercury Milan now for just $209 a month. Get the best savings of the year at your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
I have COPD with chronic bronchitis, which makes it hard to breathe. But now that I'm breathing better with Advair, I can cheer my grandson to victory.
For people with COPD with chronic bronchitis, great news. Advair helps significantly improve lung function. While nothing can reverse COPD, Advair is different from other medications because it's the only product with an anti-inflammatory and a bronchodilator working together to help you breathe better. Advair won't replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms and should not be used more than twice a day. Lung infections, including pneumonia, have been reported with Advair. Taking Advair may increase your risk for osteoporosis and some eye problems. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking Advair, and ask about the risks and benefits of continuing Advair after 6 months.
Thanks for coming, Grandpa.
I wouldn't have missed it. Ask your doctor how Advair helps improve lung function for better breathing.
Find out how to get your first full prescription free at AdvairCOPD.com.
You gotta be kidding me!
Can't believe it.
Would you like to win $10 million from Publishers Clearinghouse?
Oh, yeah!
Go to PCH.com at once.
Oh, I'm leaving now.
Or enter by mail, and our next $10 million winner could be you.
NBC News. Everywhere you go, there we are. From your TV to your radio, your iPod to your cell phone, whether you're at home or on the move. NBC News, America's news leader.
And now an up-close look at one of the great places in the world, Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Right now, it is changing before our eyes. Scientists say what's happening there is a warning. Our Chief Environmental Affairs correspondent, Ann Thompson, says the change has been stark.
Off Australia's east coast, you will find the blue outback, a kaleidoscope of life that is the Great Barrier Reef. But it is under siege from climate change and warming waters that have twice turned its spectacularly colored corals white, bleaching their vibrant hues. Charter boat captain Perry Jones saw the 1998 and 2002 mass bleaching events firsthand.
It really looked like Christmas. It looked like somebody just come and put snow over everything.
An increase in water temperature, as little as 2 degrees for just 4 weeks, can bleach the corals, expelling the algae that give the corals their breathtaking colors. And Australia, its $6 billion tourist industry here.
If the reef died, I haven't got a business.
Bleaching of the only living organism you can see from space could make it impossible to find Nemo or much else. Why does it matter? Because of what's just beneath the surface. There are 400 different kinds of coral, 1,500 different kinds of fish, including the black-tipped reef shark, and 6,000 different kinds of shellfish. The United Nations Panel on Climate Change warns many of the spectacular fish and corals could be lost by 2020 if the water continues to warm.
How much damage occurs is in our hands, and the worst case scenario is a very grim one indeed. But the best case scenario is a reef that is definitely worth working very hard to save.
Dr. Paul Marshall manages the Climate Change Response Program at the reef for the Australian government. And warmer waters are not the only challenge.
The reef that is stressed through water pollution or through overfishing is much less able to cope with climate change.
So now a third of the 135,000 square mile reef is off limits to fishermen. And while it sounds big, the reef covers just 1/4% of all the ocean surface, but it supports 25% of the world's marine life. The turtles, the fish, the birds, all dependent in one way or another on the corals, the backbone of a crucial and fragile ecosystem, giving us beauty and visible evidence of climate change. Ann Thompson, NBC News, the Great Barrier Reef.
And a last word before we go here tonight. It's about an obituary we spotted in the paper. It told the story of a woman from Cleveland who died 3 days ago at the age of 80 here in New York. Her name was Lois Wyse, and she lived a full life. A journalist, an author, she wrote a musical, co-founded an advertising agency. But there's a reason we know her work. It's because we know her words. A small company came to her years ago. They thought they had a great product and they wanted to branch out. After sampling their product, her advice to the company was to state the obvious. She suggested the slogan, "With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good." Well, her place in advertising history was secure. In later years, she had the good sense to tell a retail chain to call themselves Bed Bath & Beyond. But even with her place in history secure, Lois was said to be most proud of her children and the 8 grandchildren she left behind. Living proof that the life of Lois just had to be good. That's our broadcast for this Monday night. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you right back here tomorrow night. Good night.